So this episode of Snake Stories is going to be a short one and a little low energy, but just because it's a low energy one doesn't mean I am not super excited. My brain is fried. To give you an overview of what happened today at this time of recording, I woke up at like 4 in the fucking morning to catch a flight, flew home, crashed into my bed and took a nap. Then I came back and I had to write a bunch of emails, and now I'm recording this episode of Snake Stories. But why did I have to write that whole bunch of emails? Well, if you've been keeping up with the posts on this channel, you would know that I was at NAMM last week. I flew out to Anaheim, where it was being held, you know, registered and did all the things. Once again, my brain is fried. And it was a really fun time. I got to talk to a bunch of people, discover a bunch of companies that were doing exciting stuff. And yeah, I'm just going to talk about some of the things that happened while I was there. So the first day was just sort of the kickoff, where the main thing that happened was there was this hangout event in a hotel that was right next to the venue, and they were playing live music. Live music was jamming. We had actual, like, you know, musicians with instruments on the stage. I got to just make some small talk with a bunch of other people around there. There were some fellow musicians I got to connect with and talk to them about it. Got some pointers from those who had been to NAMM multiple times. And yeah, I mean, tons of people were there for the same reason I was, which was to just discover the music industry and make some connections and so on. So then on the next day, I attended a seminar in the morning, and it was giving advice about how to design a studio, which I initially didn't think would be of my interest, but I came there anyway with my tablet prepared and I took notes, and there are a lot of interesting things that I discovered. For my fellow music producers, did you know that if you have a pair of studio monitors on your desk, you want to actually point them such that their directional sound crosses over behind you instead of right where you're sitting? This is because when those directional sounds cross over where you're sitting, they're going to inevitably clash and whatnot, and your mix is going to start sounding a little bit more muddled, especially in the mid to high range. And I think the same goes for if the directional sounds cross in front of you as well. So you actually want the directional sound to cross about a foot or a foot and a half behind you. And one way that you can test this is to just take a small mirror, like one of those makeup sized ones, stick it up to your monitor, and stand back where you want the directional sounds to intersect. Then shine a flashlight at the studio monitor, and if you can see the source of the flashlight beam in that mirror that you're shining it at, that's how you know the monitor is pointed where you're standing. If you don't see that point source of light, then you need to turn the monitor and try it again. There you go. I gave everyone some advice that I learned from that seminar for free, and you didn't have to register to attend NAMM. If that's not worthy of a like, comment, and subscription, then I don't know what is. We also talked about some various trends in the music industry. Of course, AI was a huge topic, and it really just solidified a lot of the convictions I had about AI in music prior to coming to NAMM, to be honest. And I mean, look, the reality is that we already see AI in some of the tools we use all the time. Like, I use Isotope Ozone to master my tracks. There's some amount of AI that goes into its dynamic EQing. The main thing that I was talking about in my previous episode of Snake Stories, where I was touching upon the rise of some of these AI artists, and I use artists with massive quotation marks, like Xenia Monet and Breaking Rust. It's the generative AI thing that I really have a huge problem with. And I was disappointed to learn that Suno would have a booth at NAMM, but clearly my efforts to stay far away from Suno's booth worked, because I never actually even saw it while I was walking around on the exhibitions. So that was what I did on the second day. That was me just going to this seminar, taking notes, getting some insider information and industry insight, and the remaining 3 days were when the exhibitions began. And that's where the real fun was. Some of the highlights of these exhibitions were I walked to several booths where people were making in-ear monitors, and this was like perhaps one of the biggest discoveries that I made at NAMM was some of these in-ear monitors that were admittedly out of my budget range. But, you know, that's just on me to start accomplishing more in my creative content and my music. But I gave some of these in-ear monitors a listen because they were doing demos, and I was absolutely blown away at just how clear and balanced the sound was. Conventional wisdom states that if you're not mixing on a pair of studio monitors, which, you know, depending on your living situation may not always be feasible, you don't want the HOA getting on your case if you have a bigger pair with like super loud. If you're not going to be mixing on studio monitors, you should be at least mixing on full-sized headphones like these Beyerdynamic DT770s that I'm wearing right now. That's what the conventional wisdom has always said. But in my case, a lot of my music production is bound to my laptop. Meanwhile, my Beyerdynamics live at my desktop PC setup. So I've been looking for a solution where I can produce on my laptop and produce on the go, and still have that same sort of reference quality studio sound, but in a form factor that fits in my pocket. And I came across several offerings that were very competitive in that regard. There was this one pair that I remember where I listened to one of my own songs on it, and what I remembered was like, it wasn't like some in-ear monitors where it felt like there was no bass at all. What it felt like was there was bass, but that bass was super like tight, where you could tell it was there, but it wasn't overpowering like some of the other in-ear monitors that I've used. And that's especially useful for mixing and mastering EDM because obviously bass is an important component in that, but you don't want it to be overpowering because that invariably causes loss of mid-range and high resolution. Now, again, a lot of these super balanced in-ear monitors were super expensive as well. That's just going to be reliant on me accomplishing more as a musician. But yeah, that was one of the neat things that I discovered. Another thing was I got to tinker with some Hercules DJ controllers. This is like the big boy stuff that people use when they're DJing or scratching. I don't know how to do any of that like crazy scratching, but it was a whole ton of fun to just figure out, you know, how to get tracks synced up, how to carefully slide the tempo sliders to get the beats to align and whatnot. Some of the bigger DJ consoles had like these browsing knobs on them, which was super useful just when I was at the demo booth, because then you don't have to like reach over to your laptop and drag a song onto one of the decks. Cutting the fader back and forth is a lot of fun too. It's just full of like knobs and sliders that are like a fidget's dream, to be honest. And I came out of that exhibition ordering one of the cheaper DJ controllers, the Starlight, I think it's called. Yes, the Hercules DJ Control Starlight. It's this small, portable, laptop-sized controller, which is perfect for pretty much every situation I'm in currently, where I want to be able to do stuff with my laptop and also take it out on the go on the occasion that I am performing live. Not as cumbersome to stuff in a bag as their full-sized decks, but that's also another thing on my list of future investments. And the final brands that I want to highlight that I discovered at NAMM was Artesia Pro. Now, the thing about Artesia Pro that stood out to me was they made a lot of ultra compact stuff. Let's put it this way, right? My current audio interface is a Motu M4, I believe. It's either an M2 or an M4. I'm pretty sure it's an M4. But that thing's kind of a chonkster. Like, I'm not putting this thing in a bag and taking it with me with my laptop. And that's ultimately the reason why I wasn't able to record an episode of Snake Stories in my hotel room. I didn't have the mic I use normally to record and so on. Yeah, Artesia Pro makes an audio interface with 2 full-size XLR inputs and headphone monitoring and a USB out that is about half the size of my Motu audio interface. I didn't know audio interfaces could get that small. And the other thing Artesia Pro does that is, again, on my list of future investments is their X-Key series of MIDI controllers as well as their X-Synth. So the portable keyboard I currently use is like one of those ones with like the springy keys and stuff like that. Yeah, the X-Key keyboard is about the same dimensions as an Apple Magic Keyboard. At least I think their 25 key one is. But what really stood out to me about it was, number one, it had bigger keys, which made it easier to play. And the fact that they were sort of flatter didn't really bother me all that much. And number two, it's about half the height of my other portable keyboard. So it's extremely thin. and therefore much easier to pack into a bag. I think between the in-ear monitors, the audio interface, and the DJ controller, you're sensing a theme in the way I'm describing them. I need stuff that works with my laptop because creativity never rests. Creativity is always on the move. So the more I'm able to produce and perform on the go, and the more gear exists that allows me to do that, I am always happy to look into that and invest in it. I also got to discover Rock, Paper, Scissors, this PR firm that works to put innovative music brands on the map. I rediscovered an old brand that I had previously seen at the Maker Faire, so it was really cool to see them go places. And Rock, Paper, Scissors also specializes in connecting artists with those rising brands as well. So there was tons of networking to be done. Again, I got a ton of emails set out. I'm excited for what the future holds now. In the previous episode of Snake Stories, I was talking about how, like, you know, the job market is utterly fucked and the traditional application process is ruined. But yeah, I understand the hype now behind these like industry networking events. Things like NAMM are very clearly where it's at because you get to actually see what's going on in person. You get to talk to people who have importance at places where you might fit in. I have been advised that it might take a while to hear back from some of these companies that I've been reaching out to, but yeah, if you're looking to start a career in a given industry, go to a conference or a networking event like this. And if you want to break into the music industry, try to get in attendance at NAMM. If nothing else, you can attend all of the seminars and get a bunch of industry insight. I have a bunch of notes to collate as well, but I'm going to worry about that tomorrow. So yeah, that was some of the highlights of my NAMM experience, and that's why I did not release any content last week. If any of you who are listening to this podcast happen to be at NAMM, let me know and tell me what you experienced and some of the cool stuff that you found. I know that I was not able to thoroughly explore everything. I mean, I only briskly walked around the exhibition floor most of the time and just really zoned in on what caught my attention. There was an entire wing of the exhibition floor that I didn't even touch because that's where all the instruments were. And I don't play an instrument, nor am I an instrument technician, but that's definitely something else I will have to come back to at a future NAMM convention. And yeah, that'll be about it for this episode of Snake Stories, I think. Oh yeah, one more thing. While I was at NAMM, I got enrolled in the Hercules affiliate program. Hopefully later this week when my DJ Control Starlight arrives, I'm going to start a stream where I just figure out how to use it, how to get it to work with DJ software, and how to get my songs to mesh together. But in the meantime, while I was talking to some of the representatives at Hercules, they walked me through how to get enrolled in the affiliate program. So there will be a link in the description to the North American Hercules store, and you can use creator code STABILITY to support me and what I do through that program. It was really cool of the folks at Hercules to sort of let me in on that information and show me how it's done. And I'm probably going to start doing live sets either here on Snake's Delay CH or on Stability Music. We'll have to see what the future holds in that regard, but that was a super exciting opportunity that I was able to get on right at NAMM while I was staying in my hotel at Anaheim and whatnot. So yeah, again, eshop.hercules.com, I believe is the URL. The link will be in the description, as well as the creator code. Again, that's going to be Stability. If you listen to Stability Music, you'll know how that's spelled. Just enter that creator code in before you make your purchase, and you will be supporting me through the Hercules affiliate program. So yeah, that'll be about it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like the music you're hearing in the background, it is available on Stability Music. There will be a link to that in the description as well. Thanks for listening, everyone. I will talk to you all later. Oh my God, I said this would be a short episode, but the raw recording is 18 minutes long. So much for that one.